The Leafs go 500 on their remaining 2 weeks. And that's all she wrote for the 2010-2011 season. Valiant effort, boys, valiant effort. It's time to look back on the season. Welcome to the penalty box. Woo! Sorry about not posting a video recently, life got in the way, but it's time to catch up. Alright, let's burn through these last games quickly. Leafs win 4-3 against the Buffalo Sabres. Scoring for the Leafs, Dion Phaneuf with a blast from the point, Darryl Boyce assisted by Nazem Kadri, Clark MacArthur assisted again by Kadri, and Mikhail Grabowski. Notes on the game? Kadri looked good. He was critical on 2 of the Leafs' 4 goals. If he keeps playing like this, he'll find a permanent home on the roster next season. Also, the energy in the ACC for this game, amazing! It looks like the fans are finally coming back. The building rocked with "Go Leafs, Go" chants, and the cheering. It sounded and felt like a playoff game. In fact, if you're honest, this last push was the Leafs playoffs. Invaluable experience for the rookies. Next up, Leafs win 4-3 in the shootout against the Boston Bruins. Leafs goal scorers, Luke Schenn with the assist going to Thomas Kaberle. Seriously! Joffrey Lupul again, and eventually Nazem Kadri with the only goal in the shootout, using virtually the same move he used on Thomas earlier this season with the stick-waving leg-lifting thing. Hey, if it works. Outstanding things about this game? Whenever the Leafs meet the Bruins this season, we've virtually been guaranteed a good game. And since January, more often than not, we've come out on top. One thing that was interesting was Grabowski's penalty shot in overtime after getting hooked on a breakaway. Not sure that warranted a penalty shot, but there you go. That has got to be the slowest penalty shot move I've ever seen. Really shows how exhausted he was. And of course I have to mention the fight between Milan Lucic and Jay Rosehell. They square off in the second and go at it for almost a minute. Milan Lucic at one point getting into his boxer stance. That was definitely, without a doubt, the fight of the year. Eventually they tie each other up. It's a draw. And after the game, the positives keeps coming for the Leafs as James Reimer was named Rookie of the Month for the month of March. Well-deserved honor here. The Leafs turnaround started back in January when he first started seeing action, and he's a big part of righting the ship. Moving on, the Leafs make it a perfect week, winning 4-2 against the Ottawa Senators. Scoring for the Leafs, Phil Kessel, Joffrey Lupul. Scoring for the Leafs, Phil Kessel, Nazem Kadri, Joffrey Lupul, and Nikolai Kulemin. Always great to beat your Ontario rivals. Not much to say about this game. Good hard effort like the rest of the week, and you get revenge on Craig Anderson for the shutout the last time we met. On to the next game. The magic finally ends for the Leafs as they lose 3-2 in the shootout against the Washington Capitals as their playoff hopes finally evaporate. Before this game, the Leafs had to lose all 3 of their remaining games and have Buffalo lose all 3 of their remaining games in regulation to make the playoffs. Well, we all knew this would come eventually. Scoring for the Maple Leafs, Nikolai Kulemin, who got his 30th goal of the season, and Joffrey Lupul, both scoring in regulation. And before we even get to the shootout, the out-of-town scores are shown in the ACC, and Buffalo's won, eliminating the Maple Leafs from contention. And the Leafs don't score in the shootout. Reimer pushes it to extra shooters, but Mike Knuble puts the final nail on the coffin. The Leafs are done. And I know a lot of people were upset about this because we started to believe that it could happen again. Then reality comes along and gives you a swift kick to the groin. But honestly, we knew it was going to happen. There's no way that Buffalo would have lost all their games in regulation. And yeah, it sucks that the Leafs are going to be out of the playoffs again, but think about where this team was 2.5 seasons ago when Brian Burke came to town and where it is now. Hell, think of where it was last season. Second last in the league. Now, 1 season later, we're in a playoff race and get eliminated in the second last game of the season? That's what they call massive improvement. So yeah, it sucks that we missed this year, but give it 1 more year and I expect a different result. Back to Kulemin's goal, that was the 30th of his season, like I said earlier, giving us 2 30 goal scorers with a third man, Mikhail Grabowski, coming within a hair's breadth of a 30 goal season with 29. Kind of burns for Mikhail, but hey, 2 30 goal scorers and a 29 goal scorer ain't bad. Moving quickly on, the Leafs lose 4-2 to the New Jersey Devils. And yeah, I kind of expected that. Think of it, the Leafs get eliminated from the postseason with 2 games left. They have a game the very next day that does nothing to determine the standings. Would you be able to psych yourself up for that game? Anyway, the Leafs goal scorers were Phil Kessel and Tyler Bozak during a Devils 5-on-3 power play. That's right, not only short-handed, but short-handed by 2 men. The last time that happened for the Leafs was the 1998-1999 season. And finishing up the season, the Leafs lose 4-1 to the Montreal Canadiens. The only goal scorer was Phil Kessel with a beautiful rush-in and self-generated opportunity with an assist going to newly acquired Leaf in the Boston trade, Joe Colborne. That's Colborne's first NHL point in his first NHL game. Also playing his first NHL game was Matt Fratton, drafted 99th overall in the 2007 NHL draft. He looked very good for his first game, and some might say he's even more NHL ready than Joe Colborne. And that's a wrap on the Maple Leaf season. So, as we do in times like this, let's just have a quick look back on the season that was. This season was a bit of a mixed bag. Of course, there were the disappointments. Brett Lebda and Mike Komisarek are 2 of the biggest. Mike Komisarek kept getting pushed down the depth chart because of his defensive gaffes, and Brett Lebda was eventually replaced by Marley D-Man Matt Lashoff by the season's end. Goaltending was another big one. Jaguar Gustafsson took steps back. Gustafsson looked shaky and didn't seem to develop like we'd hoped. And Jaguar has been very mediocre this season, perhaps demonstrating why Anaheim didn't want him at the end of last season. The penalty kill on the power play had been awful. We were 22nd in the league on power play and 28th in the league on penalty kill. That's one of the worst in the league in both areas. They desperately need improvement. And of course the mid-season implosion that ultimately doomed the playoff chances for the Leafs. We had a team at the beginning of the year that was supposed to compete for a playoff spot. And after a 4-win start, we bombed. It's a combination of all those things I mentioned and Bozak and Gunnarsson having sophomore slumps. But then, of course, there are the huge positives and the reason to hope for next season. One of the big ones is the second line. Grabowski was coming off a 10-goal season, Kuhlman off a 16-goal season, and MacArthur looked like a career journeyman. It almost looked like a third line cobbled together because of lack of top 6 forwards. But it exploded, becoming one of the most effective lines in the league, accounting for 36% of Leafs scoring this season. That's 70 goals. Not to mention those 3 finishing 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in Leafs scoring behind Kessel. It shows the difference chemistry and hard work can make. Another positive, the re-emergence of Dion Phaneuf as a scoring threat. That started in December when he was paired with Keith Aulie. Keep that pairing together for next season. There was Joffrey Lupul re-establishing himself as a scoring first-line winger. He ended the game with 14 goals and 31 points in a 54-game campaign. That's good to see for a guy who missed an entire calendar year to injury. You round out that line with a first-line center, I see good things in our future. And of course, James Reimer emerging as the #1 goalie after starting the season with the Marlies. Not enough you can say about that guy. Here's a little bit of trivia for you. The Leafs' pace after the All-Star break, if kept up for an entire season, would add up to 100 points. Yep, that's a playoff team. So, that's the note I'll end the season on. They're good, they're going to get better, and, barring catastrophe, this is a team that will compete. Also, before I go, I want to send a quick shout out to my buddy Colin Lack. He runs a Canes and Leafs blogging website. He recently posted 3 blogs about headshots. They're really interesting, really good reads. You should check them out. And in the 3rd one, he interviewed me, asking me my opinion on headshots and what measures we can take to stop them. So if you want to check that out, I'll post a link down here. I'll also post a link to his website so you can go check out his blogs. I recommend it. Last but certainly not least, I want to say a big thank you to all of you. Not only because you watch me season after season, but because you support me, following me on Twitter and on Facebook. And because of that support and your votes this past week, I won the Dangle Prize in the Leaf Space Awards as the Video Blogger of the Year. And you know, since it's my prize, I'm going to change the name. So next year, maybe you can win the Wiggle Prize. Well, that's it for this season. Thank you for watching my 3rd season. Wow, it's hard to believe I've come this far. Of course, it isn't goodbye yet. I'll be posting videos throughout the playoffs and the off-season. But for now, for the last time this season, go Leafs go.